Where in DC can you see world-class artists for free? The Library of Congress. They have presented live music in one of the city's most iconic spaces for more than 100 years. Join them for more than 25 concerts and events, from classical music to jazz, Broadway, popular music, and more. Tickets are available now at loc.gov/concerts. See a show that's sold out? Don't sweat it. The library offers day of rush passes to all performances. See what's coming up at loc.gov/concerts.
Today on CityCast DC, DC's Congressional Delegate, Eleanor Holmes Norton, announced this week she's not going to run again. This ended a horrible, horrible series of news cycles for the civil rights icon. At 88, she was a much-diminished presence on behalf of the city, and her determination to stay in office enraged some locals and dismayed a lot more. So today, we're hearing from someone who had a unique perspective on her thinking, John Norton, the delegate's son, who was also hoping his mom would step aside and having just as little luck as the rest of the political world. John talked with me about what it's like to be a family member of a politician who stays too long. It's an increasingly common phenomenon nationally, and for us in the district, it's been a particularly excruciating one over the last couple years. Today is Thursday, January 29th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC's talking about. Hey, John, thank you for being here.
I'm honored to have this opportunity to talk about my mother.
So you have been, like the rest of the district, watching, and I think in your case, waiting for your mom to do this for a long time. I'm curious, how does it feel right now?
I mean, I'm glad. I know that she loves doing this job. I mean, she's done it since 1990. I think it really became a life's passion. It's like her dream job. And the challenge is, you love the job, but at a certain point, can you do the job the way it used to be? And, the person that I saw doing it 35 years ago, she's the same age then that I am now. Just force of nature, work from sun up to sundown, get home at 9, 10 o'clock at night, work over the weekends, delegate nothing. She wrote all her speeches. I mean, she wouldn't even let her staff drive her anywhere because she thought it was wasting her staff's time. I mean, she was just relentless. But it's hard to maintain that energy as you become older. And so, she kind of lost the energy and just wasn't the same force of nature that she used to be. And the truth is, and I mean, this is the dirty little secret about too many politicians who came to DC in the 80s and 90s, they're not really that well cut out for what's going on right now. This environment's a much more fast-acting news cycle where you really got to be aggressive, and that's not how she was built. She was a fighter, but she wasn't built to be that aggressive.
So I'm wondering if you can describe what it's felt like for you personally, for your family, watching particularly the last 6 months or a year. There's been so many really hard, excruciating stories about your mom. And I know stuff was going on behind the scenes, but what was it like just to watch all that go down?
So you have to understand, I have to take you back to 1990. When my mother first ran for office, she had a tax scandal come out. Mm-hmm. And as a 18-year-old at that time, that that was painful. I absorbed that story in a lot of ways. With this, I always had a fear that the media might get to this place, especially if a lot of activity started happening with DC, and it really did in the last 2 years. $billion cuts to our budget and the president intervening in our affairs, just a lot of stuff. I mean, even before that, a revised criminal code getting overturned. So it was a lot of activity. And I was like, at a certain point, the media is going to be like, the Eleanor Holmes Norton I remember from 15, 20 years ago would have been, the tip of the spear and the pushback. And she just wasn't that same force. And at some point they were going to write that. And so when it happened, I was sad. But ultimately I became kind of like, well, all the reporting is kind of the same thing. So I'm not actually that impressed by the media. I feel like they're just being redundant. And so I didn't like it, but I also knew it was inevitable if she kept on hanging on.
Right. And I'm wondering, in one of the times we talked, you compared her to like Muhammad Ali, right?
Yes.
This great fighter who held on too long,
Yes.
and some of the skills had deteriorated. But just to extend that comparison a little bit, like when you go in a boxing ring without appropriate skills, you can really suffer terrible damage. I'm wondering if you worried about your mom's health or ability to withstand the what you said was a 24-hour job.
Well, see, that's the thing that makes my mother unique. This is the reason why she was in some ways perfect for the job, because she can just take a licking and keep on moving. Like, it's kind of amazing in some respects. Like as I said, back in 1990 when the tax thing came out, I was horrified. She just was like, whatever. She just kept on pushing. And so, yeah, she got a lot of negative stories, and I know she didn't like it, but she wasn't weighed down by it. But I'm sure it was kind of a sea change because she had garnered so much respect from the media, had such a good relationship with the media. But I don't think that she was taken aback by it because she just has been used to keep on pushing forward. I mean, to think about it when it comes to her, because I always thought the thing about this job is I don't know how you keep your cool, because ultimately you are in there fighting for the district. You have these representatives from random districts all around the country who decide to pick on the city. Now, personally, I would get very mad. I would get very angry. It would be annoying to me. But she just kept on fighting, kept a smile on her face, and I was kind of amazed by it. I mean, and I also thought about the thing about her job that's really unique is that when she steps out of her office, she's right there with her constituents. Even if she's having a bad day, if Congress has been giving DC hell, she's got to smile and take the selfies and greet everybody and all that stuff. So she just kind of, it's dirt off the shoulder.
I'm wondering, how did she finally come to the decision?
I don't really know, because we've asked her about this for a while. So I don't know what was the tipping point, but maybe just in a moment of reflection and thinking, can I really mount this campaign? Can I really provide the district what it needs during these trying times? And I think she just came to that decision, and we're just grateful for it, because I think that what we need to do is focus on all that she's done through her career, which is incredible, especially when it comes to the District of Columbia. And if she continued on, that focus wouldn't be there. It would be like, well, how is she doing in the face of this new challenge for the district?
I mean, there was, I know a lot of people asking, and I think for you watching your mom like this, I'm curious what the ask was like. Were you like, Mom, please don't do this anymore, or what?
Well, so when it came to getting her to not run, it was a lot of people who weighed in, who made their various arguments, who ultimately did the thing which is the biggest challenge for a lot of these politicians, which is it's time to let the next generation take the baton.
Yeah.
Too many of them refuse to do that. So she's not unique in that sense. I mean, when it comes to the Democratic Party, it's even more problematic because they don't time people out in terms of seniority on the various committees. So you can just be the top Dem on the Ways and Means Committee or, the Arms Affairs Committee forever. So it's almost like this incentive, I can just be in this top seat, have all the power. So why am I going to leave and some newbie's going to come in and they're going to be, all the way in the back of the committee, low man on the totem pole. But I think that's a very kind of short-sighted way of thinking about it. It's it's like grabbing a hold of the power and not wanting to relinquish it. And I think that a lot of those politicians need to think, what do I bring to the table now versus what I brought to the table in the past? And do I really think that what I'm bringing to the table makes sense for my constituents now? We know 20, 30 years ago, they were incredible. But the question is, in your 70s, 80s, is this really realistic?
Do you think that your mother was aware that she wasn't able to do some of the tricks she was able to do back in the day?
It's not about an awareness. It's just a passion for the job. She just literally was like, why would I give this up?
Yeah.
I want to be in the fight. I love this job. I got all the seniority. It wasn't a whole bunch of, I can't do this, I can't do that. It's kind of like, I can't see myself not doing this. And I think she's not alone.
So as you said, you're 53 now, which is the age she was when she went into the job. I want to just take me back in time for a second about what that was like. You were going off to college right when she was going into Congress, but what was the work-life balance like, or was there a work-life balance?
So you have to understand, when I go off to college in 1990, the district was in a world of hurt.
Right.
The mayor was busted on camera, smoking crack. The murder rate was through the roof. And I'm in California. I went to Occidental College, the school I laughed that couldn't hack it, so we had to transfer over somewhere else.
Yeah, he transferred to Columbia, where I went.
But anyway, whenever I would come back, I would see what her days were like, and I was like, this is crazy. Her days went forever. Like, a lot of times she'd get up first thing in the morning to do some sort of local media hit with a radio station or a local news station. Then she'd go in there for a full day's worth of work, directing her staff to do everything, going to hearings. Then after that full day's worth of work, she'd go off to fundraisers, to events. She'd come home at 9, 10 o'clock at night. I have a sister, Catherine. She has Down syndrome. So that was always a little bit of a challenge, because someone had to be watching her. And ultimately, one of the people who wound up watching my sister and providing her care wound up becoming a live-in. Like, because it just became too crazy. When my mother, she might come home at 7 o'clock one night, but the next night she'd come home at 10. It just became a bit crazy. And then the weekends would roll around, and most people, when the weekend rolls around, they're like, okay, well, now it's time to relax. But no, for her, it was, okay, I got 3 or 4 events on Saturday, 3 or 4 events on Sunday. So it was just a kind of never-ending, struggle.
And all this time, she's in the phone book. So your guy's home answering machine is full of constituents.
Well, clearly, nobody in their right mind who comes to Congress now would put their information out there like that, because of all the cranks out there who want to harass them. But yes, she decided, I'm going to put my public number in the phone book so people can call me. But the silliest thing about it was ultimately, she'd be there to maybe take a message, but she would also be there to say, you can call my office. And I'm like, well, just let them call your office. They don't need to call you to call your office. But that's her trying to be as accessible as possible to her constituents. But I think, at a certain point, you got to have a fine line. And I don't know that was really the wisest move. And I'm just glad that she wasn't one of these people who became a relentless target, because there are certainly politicians who would be horrified because of all the harassment they get, that people had an easy way to contact them.
Right. So I'm fascinated by the phenomenon of sort of families of members of Congress, particularly as they get older. So you're watching this, and like a lot of sons, you're pulling for your mom. You're probably like a pretty close watchdog of people who might let her down or might need to support her. One of the things she used to do is drive around town, and even before these last couple cycles, where with the attention to her age, there'd be pictures posted of the car on the sidewalk and stuff like that. How did you get her to stop driving?
Well, I will tell you a very funny story. So her mother, my grandmother, she lives in D.C., and she was driving well into her 80s, and we couldn't get her to stop. And it was a problem because she was kind of reckless. She'd be, so what they did was they basically paid a neighbor to help get rid of the car. And so the car was gotten rid of, and the effort wasn't made to replace it. So that was.
So you were like, Grandma, the car got stolen?
Basically, yes. We couldn't get her to stop, and it was concerning. And so that's what they did with my mother. It was just.
So she comes by it honestly.
She wasn't able to navigate around the city as well as she used to. And we just kind of told her, hey, why don't you just let someone drive you, relax, get on the phone, write whatever you need to write. Just helped her to understand that it just wasn't necessary. Like, you had to let go of this little thing about saying it's a waste of my staff's time to drive. Because the truth was, the staff was going with her to various events. So what was the point? Why did they need to go with you, but they can't ever drive? At a certain point, it was just like, let's just make let's change the dynamic here. Let's make life a little easier.
So let's talk a sec about this phenomenon, because it's certainly not limited to your mother, of politicians staying too long in their seats despite age and health. Trump and Biden are two of the oldest, or maybe the two oldest to ever serve as president. We saw what happened with California Senator Dianne Feinstein before she died. Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa is 92. In a lot of those cases, there were stories of people who sort of benefited from being adjacent to this powerful person who whispered in their ear to stick around. I don't know if that was happening here.
No one benefited from her sticking around. I mean, obviously, if you're a staff member, obviously it helps you with your career, but you're also totally prepared to move on if she decides to retire. So there was nothing that was keeping her in there at all, vis-a-vis people kind of saying, oh, you should keep on fighting. Because the truth is, people were like, you've been amazing, but why do you have to continue doing this? And honestly, I thought the same thing. Like, are you trying to be Strong Thurmond and be in there till you're like 100 years old? And like, if anybody remembers Strong Thurmond, when he was in there at the end, I don't think you can understand a word the man said.
And let's just say for the record that that may be the only thing that Strom Thurmond and Eleanor Holmes Norton have in common.
It most definitely is, but it was, interesting. He stayed as long as he stayed, but like, go look at some old clips of hearing him talk, and then go look at some clips of him around 2000, and you'll be like, what the heck is going on here? So,
meantime, behind the scenes, what does this, in your case or in the other cases, what does this do to the family?
It's frustrating because it's not like you can't make the decision for them. You've got to get them to see your viewpoint and embrace your viewpoint. So it's very frustrating from a family perspective because, trust me, everyone weighed in saying, hey, I think we've run this race as long as we can. It's time for you to, have a seat. But, it's hard to tell someone who is deeply passionate about something to stop doing the thing they're deeply passionate about. You had mentioned the thing because we had talked previously about Muhammad Ali, about these boxers who were incredible in their 20s and then they fought in their 40s and they'd have these losses that to people who 20 years ago they would have beaten within a round. So it's the same phenomenon. It's not that she was incompetent or anything, but it's just that she wasn't bringing to the table what we had remembered her bringing to the table in the prime. And I didn't think it really looked good for the district for her to be continuing this fight at this point.
Yeah, how did it feel watching her in hearings?
I mean, I don't do that. Well, and be perfectly candid, one of the things I don't do because I can't stand that committee is the House Oversight Committee is the worst committee in Congress. Like, it's just a free-for-all, and where everyone's trying to gotcha question and get their sound bites so they can put on social media. So I don't actually watch those hearings. I never did.
So she was the senior most, longest tenured Democrat on that committee. And for a brief moment, she was suggesting she might try to become the ranking member, which spurred a kind of party freakout. How'd that feel to you when you saw that she was going to maybe go for that?
Well, I didn't think they were going to let her become the ranking member. They certainly weren't going to let her become the ranking member because the previous top Dem, Jamie Raskin, had been incredible. Like, he was so good that he had the Republicans scrambling, trying to put hearings behind closed doors and everything. So they weren't going to go from what Jamie Raskin had been bringing to the table to what my mother was currently able to bring to the table. And so they found a suitable replacement in Robert Garcia, and I think he's done a terrific job. I mean, and the thing about my mother's seniority is, in theory, she could have been the chair of the Transportation Committee, which is a monster. Like, but again, is she really ready to take on that committee? Because that committee, I mean, the amount of projects around the country, it's kind of crazy. And I just, but they didn't really even consider her there, and that's fine. It's also would have been weird in that having that position because she doesn't get to vote on the House floor, but she's the top Dem on that committee. It would have been a weird dynamic.
So there's 24 members of Congress, 80 or older. Your mother is the oldest of them in the House. And I expect she's not the only one who feels like this is the fight I'm in, and whose previous career has benefited from being stubborn and saying hell no when people tell you to get out of there. What are some of the things families can do, could do, or maybe was tried in this case behind the scenes to convince people to step aside?
Well, I think, and again, my mother really wasn't listening to this, but I think that if I were in this position and I had a family member who was in Congress who'd been there a long time, I was like, so you do need to understand that at a certain point in time, if you stay in there, that positive press that you've been known for, it's not going to not going to continue because they're going to ultimately start to take notice of that. There's also going to be this phenomenon, which is perfectly understandable, which is that a lot of people keep deferring when the election comes up and they don't run against that longtime incumbent. But eventually they're going to like, I can't wait anymore. And so that longtime incumbent, after having had a bunch of easy races, and let's be honest, most of my mother's races were as simple as it gets. Are you prepared for a tough race where someone's going to be, really trying to bring to bear what they see as your current shortcomings? Not that they don't respect what you've done, but at a certain point, they're going to bring that to bear. And so you got to say, are you really, really prepared to continue this fight? For me, it's frustrating because there's no mechanism to stop this. Like, we know Congress is never going to vote for term limits. They're just not going to do it. So ultimately, if you want members to stop staying there forever, it's up to the constituents. But the problem is the constituents wind up having a voting habit. It's almost Pavlovian. They just reflexively, oh, that person's on the ballot, I'm gonna vote for him again. I like that person. I like that person. I like that person. And so it just becomes, par for the course. You wind up having someone like, and I'm not trying to pick on him, but when I saw that Chuck Grassley had been a politician since 1958, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, 1958? And he hasn't even said he's not going to run again? I'm like, wow, that is astounding. Like, I mean, that's a 6-year term. Like, at least in the House, it's 2-year terms.
Is there I know there were efforts, but like to sort of create something else that they can do to continue their legacy not in Congress?
Yeah, no, we definitely had proposals for ideas with various universities, whether it be focusing on kind of civil rights, women's rights. So those proposals were out there. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, if she had maybe stepped away a decade ago, I think she could have really grabbed the bull by the horn with those things. But those things can still happen. It's just that I don't think she'll be quite the force that she would have been in trying to kind of, burnish those new activities. But no, they certainly brought that up. And look, we're going to do things of that sort anyway, because her legacy is what it is. I mean, the truth is she's going to be one of the few people you'll ever see who will be in the African American Museum and will then also be in the Women's Museum when that actually winds up being established. So her record is what it is. I mean, what she did for the district is incredible. I mean, I could go through all the various things. We've talked about some of them. But, obviously that tag thing where you get in-state tuition, that's a lifesaver for a lot of people because, the District of Columbia, what's our public university? And it's awesome that, I have a 14 and a 10-year-old. Like, if they wanted to go to the University of Maryland, University of North Carolina, University of Michigan, Cal Berkeley, whatever, they can go there and be in-state. And I think it's an incredible thing. So
the chronology of the last week where there were reports about the ending of your mother's campaign before there was any statement from the office itself. And in the meantime, there was a lot of statements which underline the tremendous affection and admiration people have for her legacy. And so, I think a lot of people are thinking of her right now, and I'm wondering, without getting into too much detail, like how's she doing? How's her health? How's her mood?
I mean, she's 88, so her health, could easily be better. I mean, honestly, one of my biggest concerns for her is just mobility because she has a terrible back. And anybody who has a terrible back will tell you that their mobility is going to get compromised. So, I mean, for me, one of the things I hope that when she's retired is she can focus more on her health and try to strengthen certain areas that have become a problem. Because, aging is what it is. I mean, you're blessed to live a long life, but when you live a long life, there are going to become, health concerns that are going to arise. And the question is, are you spending time addressing those concerns? I think that that's part of the problem with her continuing to be so focused on the job. I sometimes think that she didn't focus as much as she needed to on her health. Some of that might just have felt like, kind of like this superwoman mindset that I'll just grit through. But you can't grit through a bad back. There's no way to grit through it. You got to address it.
And what about her mood right now? I mean, it must have been an incredibly emotional and difficult thing to do, to decide to step aside.
I mean, it is for her. I think it's going to be interesting because I don't know how much it hits now as much as it will when it gets to be November and December. And then obviously when it's January and she's not going to go to Capitol Hill to her office, that's going to be different. So I think it's a process, but she's done the right thing by realizing that it's time to let these young whippersnappers who are chomping at the bit take on this responsibility. I mean, I see a couple of council members. It's going to be a large field, but the truth is it was a large field when Walter Fauntroy decided he was going to step down, because it was like, oh, the seat finally came open. I better get in there.
Right. Is she still living at home on the Hill?
Yes, yes. Got it. Been there. We've been there since 1977. We moved to D.C. for her to become chair of the EOC, and my father, he was like a deputy general counsel, I think, with HUD. Come to D.C. First time I was in D.C., first thing we did was go to the Rose Garden for a little swearing-in ceremony with Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
And so she's been in that house since 1977.
Right. I'm wondering, and stop me if it's too personal, but that story about her being scammed at home, as a son, and I've got people of our age have aging parents. How'd that make you feel?
Well, I mean, I'm furious, but it's not surprising, because the truth is the scammers are out here for everybody. I mean, they really are. I get so many scam calls, it's crazy. But obviously the elder abuse phenomenon of, tapping into people who are senior citizens is really prolific, because I guess they're just a little more trusting, a little less astute to the games they're played. But it's frustrating. And I really do wonder sometimes, I'm like, couldn't Congress be doing something more to put the penalties in place or something to stop this phenomenon? Because it's actually going to keep on increasing, because it's so easy with the internet to just go after people.
So last question before I let you go. What are you guys looking forward to doing now that she's stepping down?
Well, the one thing I joked the most about my mother, because she just really was a little too relentless with her work ethic. And so she would wait until the latter half of August each year. She'd go see her best friend. His name's Charlene Hunter Galt. He used to be with PBS. And she'd hang out with her in Martha's Vineyard. I'm hoping that now she'll just travel. She's got plenty of money to various places whenever the heck she wants, because she really hasn't been doing that. She's been such a workaholic that she literally would only have a 2-week window when she would take a vacation each year, and that needs to stop. She needs to enjoy life. She needs to enjoy her grandkids, her friends. Just smell the roses, read more. Just, there is more to life than work. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm 53. If I wanted Powerball tomorrow, I wouldn't work another second of my life.
Right.
Meanwhile, my mother wants to work till she was 100. I mean,
So I guess that's a way of saying you're not going to run for that seat.
Absolutely not. The one thing I can say for the seat is I always respect the people who do it, but you also got to know what you can and can't tolerate. And I couldn't tolerate it. And the district job, I could not tolerate having to put up with what she has to put up with. I'd be like scorched earth, setting up a pack to go after these Republican members who keep picking on DC. I'd have to get back at them. I'm not going to say I'm like Donald Trump with the whole vengeance mindset, but I just couldn't swallow what she had to swallow. And that's always been the thing most amazing about her. She can really just turn the other cheek.
John, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my mother, and I really do hope that people will just take a look at some of the things she's done. It's a lot. It's a lot that she was able to accomplish for the district.
And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. And become a CityCast neighbor. You can do that at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.